Let's start off by saying, how are you? What's your name?
My name is Michael Groce. I'm a performance poet and filmmaker.
How was your upbringing? What was it like growing up in Brixton?
It's interesting. That's the word I'm going to use, interesting. I mean, I grew up around the back there, Railton Road, went to a school called Afro Primary. And so it was very much a black Caribbean upbringing. I just had a lot of music. It was a lot of poverty going around. There was a lot of struggle. My mum had 3 kids by the time she was 18, so it was quite tough for her. But it was all right. Tough is the word I'm going to use, especially around being in Brixton. But I loved it. I was one of those kids in school that I felt school wasn't enough for me. I just wanted to be on the road, make money. Even from a very young age, I just wanted to be out there. So adventurous and tough and all the things that goes with it, but I'm not going to complain. It wasn't too bad.
In terms of your mum, how did you find out after the incident?
So I had been on the run for like 3 days now, and then my stepsister, went to go and see my mum to explain to my mum that I was going to be handing myself in. And then when she left, someone knocked the door about 10 minutes later. I was like, oh, who's this? So I thought it was a burglar or something, so I kind of like hid behind the door. And then when I finally answered the door, they went, it's Rosemary. And I was like, you know she's not here. She's gone out, man. Why are you knocking at my sister's door? And she went, oh, I just heard her mum got shot in Brixton. And those words just went over my head. I just thought, you're not my mum. If that makes sense, you think, there was another woman called Cherry that lived on my road. So there was 2 Cherries that lived on Normandy Road. And I thought it was the other Cherry that got shot, not my mum. So I was like, well, if my mum's been shot, that would be in the news, right? You think something like that's going to be in the news. So boom, I turned the telly on and there it was. My grandmother outside my mum's house with my family crying, saying, we don't know why this happened. And then boom, it was like, I couldn't tell no one really. It was anger, like just from the bottom right up, all the way in to the top. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to just explode, but I couldn't do it because the place I was at, I couldn't smash it or nothing like that. So I remember saying, all right, let me just go and take a walk. Let me get my head around it. And as I went on the road and people was talking about it, there was people in the shops talking about it. They were saying they're looking for a son, and I'm standing in the shops and those people are talking, and it just wasn't real for me. It was another thing that was going on for me. And so I just couldn't take that. And then it was just making arrangements for me to hand myself in. So I was in bits. Numb is the word I can describe. And I was angry. I wanted to kill someone, I'll be honest with you. And I actually remember going back down to Normandy Road in the middle of the night to my mum's house to see if I can go in there, see the family and everybody like that. And it was surrounded. So I can see it from a distance, and that was it. I just thought, you know what? I need to just hand myself in anyway. I'm realising that I'm not going to see her unless I really proper hand myself in the next day, which what they agreed. And even then, I wasn't too sure if I was going to see her because I thought I was going to be put in remand. But yeah, it was tough. That's how I heard.
So, why were you on the run?
So the police were looking for me in connection with an armed robbery. All right. So a friend of mine got arrested, and we was under observation for a couple of days, and then they came for me. Now I had a gun in my house, and I had an argument with my partner at the time, and I showed off and fired the gun. As I fired the gun, the door knocked. And I was like, this is a neighbour. They're going to complain about the noise and blah, blah, blah. So I went up the door and there was a police officer standing there. And he asked me for my name. So I thought, I can't give him my gun now. It's got smoke coming out of here. So I went to close the door, and as I went to close the door, he put his foot in the door. So I pushed the door back and I put the gun in his mouth. Made my escape. Left the gun, made my escape, went on the run. So they came after me for the robbery, and they want me for firing after a police officer. That was the original story. They said I fired after him, which I didn't. But so I was on the run for 3 days for that. And I wasn't prepared. I went on the run because I wasn't prepared to sort of hand myself in that moment with that charge on robbery plus a possession of a firearm. It wouldn't have made, I was looking at 40, 30 years. And so I needed to find a barrister. That's why I really run. And it was while I was on the run, those 2 days, that it just escalated too fast. And before I knew about it, I was at my mum shooting my mum. So Thatcher.
What did you think about the police before your mother was shot versus after?
Right. I didn't think nothing about the police before my mum was shot. I was a career criminal. So I just thought about them, how criminals thought about them. I'm trying to do something, they're trying to stop me. We just had this game that goes on. There's levels. I think people don't really understand. There's levels to the game, so in that sense, the relationship between the community or those criminality and the police, right? So I wasn't like an early criminal that was trying to find my way or just hating for the sake of hating. I've been involved in criminality since I was a little boy. So my relationship with me and the police, that's what made this one extremely strange, because me and Brixton police known each other since I was a boy, right? And it was really weird that they came after me to shoot me, because they actually know me, and we never had that relationship. But I found out afterwards there was a miscommunication. They felt that I had done something earlier, so I did, but they took it that I'd crossed over to the danger zone, if that makes sense. Normally I didn't go that far. I just sort of like, I get arrested, they were saying, all right, Michael, this is how I knew my mum. They knocked my mum's door, said, Cherry, tell Michael we're downstairs. That's how they spoke to me and my family. So my mum would go, Michael, there's some friends downstairs. I look at my watch, it's like 6 o'clock in the morning. There's only one friend. There's only one friend that knocks the door at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, Mum, they're not my friends, man. And they'd be like, Michael, come on, man, just come on, man. And then my mum would go, no, brother, start fighting in the halls. So like, but like, that is the relationship I had with the police. So, and I think even though after my mum got shot, we still had friendly banter in some parts of the police, right? So some police knew me, some didn't know me, some have heard of me, some wanted a piece of me, but there's general different levels, and I had different understandings with different officers. So it depends who I was facing, what I said. So if it's someone that's fresh and he didn't know me, I'm going to put him through it. If it's someone that knew me and he knows I know the game, we sort of like get to some type of arrangement. Am I making sense? So that was the level I was on. So it's very difficult for me to say how do I feel about them. But generally, yeah, I've got a healthier relationship than most, which is not something to be proud of, but that was the situation, the scenario. So, yeah.
Was it just your mum that was your connection to the uprising?
Well, no, my connection to Uprising is the criminality, because a lot of people that came out there from my mum were people that knew her, that grew up around Brixton, that's had that struggle that's been going on. And I mean, just mean struggle with the police, I mean just struggle with poverty and living. And so we all grew up as a very close unit. So most people that was in the riots, that was fighting around there, I knew them, or they knew of me or my family. Even today, I still get people that don't actually know me, but they'll say, I know your mum, or I knew your sister, or I knew your auntie. They have some connection to me. So in that sense, I had a big connection. And plus, it was more than that as well. I was one of those kids that used to branch out a lot. So, I knew the market traders, I knew people in the shops, I knew the pubs owners and people like that. So, a lot of those came out as well. Non-criminality people came out as well. So, yeah, it was, and the church, my grandmother's church, even some of the people in the church came out and threw a couple of bricks. So this is people from the church. So, I mean, it run deep within my community.
What do you think the legacy of the Brixton Uprisings were?
I think legacy is what you see today, right? In 1985, if you was white, non-Caribbean, you couldn't walk down Cold Harbour Lane, right? It just wouldn't have happened. So even up to the 90s, it was still an area that was predominantly black, driven by Caribbean culture and all that stuff that went with it. And so I think there was a point, someone like, you've got Ros Griffiths, part of this project, pioneers that started to do things differently in a different way, use different language and texture. And I think what you see today is that opportunity where people, I mean, what came out of it was that you had the words like institutional racism come out, right? But I think there's two ways you can take that word. You can either take it and be a victim of it, or you can take it and be a champion of it, right? And so I want to be a champion. I've always been a champion. If it's football, I'm going to be the top footballer. If it's basketball, I'm going to be the champion of that as well. And so I want to be the champion of where I'm going to take this new philosophy and legacy. And we could have all sat there and be really angry and hate the police for the next 40 odd years, or we could have done something positive. So, I mean, my mum, God bless her, the legacy for me is how she handled it. And then that was then filtered down to us to sort of like say, right, okay, if that's how she handles it, then we need to prove to her that it was worth it. And so when I see the memorial, or if I see in the multi-diversity of Brixton, or I see black people in positions that wasn't in there before, I think this is part of the legacy. It's a hidden legacy because not many people really know about it. Well, they've heard about it, but they're not really hearing enough about it. But I'm hoping it comes out like this one doing this project, that it comes from that subculture of history and be part of the main history. And I think that's the real legacy of it all. And me, you know, my mum sort of like took the bullet for me, and she had this innate belief in my ability, right? And it was like me sitting there when I was negative and in pain, and she'd be like, she gave me this quote, and she said like, what's the matter with you? And I was like, oh man, I've had enough, oh man. And she just said, there's only a little quote, I know but she just sort of like adapted it for me. She just sort of like said, yesterday was the past, tomorrow's the future, today's a gift. That's why they call it the present. And when I see my mum can say that poem, that's them quotes to me in a wheelchair, you know, paralysed from the chest downwards. She's walking further than most people who's got legs, you know? So it made me realise that if she can move on or go to that next level to take us to that next level, then I've got no choice but to take that baton and run with it, right? And so it was really important that we did that. I think the first time she see me win my poetry event, because I goes, right, I'm going to change. She goes, why don't you work in McDonald's? I say, I ain't working in McDonald's. She goes, no, man, you do good in McDonald's, man. You'll be all right. I said, no, I don't want McDonald's. I want to be a poet. And she's like, what? What do you mean poet? And I think everybody that heard that I wanted to be a poet was really shocked. But when I won my first national prize, right, and I took it home to my mum, she was the first person I took it to, she kind of like looks at me, she goes, yeah, all right, no, cool, no problem. And then I walked out the room and someone said, my mum went, Ross, Michael, do good. What, check him out now? And she had a big poach of me taking my prize, and she was like, yeah, man, put it there, like that. But when I come to the room, she'd say nothing. She'd be like, so what I've won. So, but the legacy for me is what we see today, really. And I think that legacy of the currency of kindness is what she was all about. And I think that resonated with me a lot.